So, Stan Smith, how do you pick a doubles partner?
Well, it's a little bit like dating. You know, you want to find the best looking girl out there, and she's looking for the best looking guy, and it's...
Talk Time with Reid Moriarty.
You're wearing Adidas hat.
Yes.
You're a tennis legend and you're a fashion icon.
Yeah, right.
So, Stan Smith, let's talk shoes. First, tell me how the classic Stan Smith shoes by Adidas came to be.
Well, there was a shoe, the first leather shoe ever made was created by Horace Dassler, who was Adi Dassler's son. Horace Dassler and Robert Hayet was a French player, created the first leather tennis shoe, and they had Robert Hayet's name on it, and then they realized they wanted to get in the U.S. market. And I was the number one player in the world at the time, so we worked out an arrangement that had Robert Hayet's name on the shoe as well as my name. And eventually they took his name off the shoe, and it's just been my name for the last 40 years or so.
That's amazing, Stan Smith. What made the shoe different than other shoes?
Well, we would play with canvas shoes. The leather shoe was a really high-tech shoe. It was had a little more support, and Adidas now is coming out with a canvas shoe with my name on it. So it's maybe going full circle, but.
All right. So, Stan Smith, I like Pharrell Williams. Do you get to work with him on the bright color versions?
He's quite a young man. He's very humble, he's very gracious, and very talented. And when I spent some time with him at the U.S. Open, I asked him if he played any sports growing up, and he said no, he was in the band in high school. And
all right, so do you wear Stan Smith shoes around the house, on the court, or on skate ramps?
Well, I wear Stan Smiths around the house, around the town, not on the court, and not on skate ramps. I want to keep I've only broken one bone slightly one time, and so I don't want to take a risk of breaking any bones along the way because I'm not a young guy anymore.
If you were a kid in 2018, Stan Smith, do you think you'd play tennis or skateboard?
Well, I actually did a skateboarding video. You should take a look at it.
I loved it.
The truth be known, I've never been on a skateboard, but the young man that played me here, we did the video actually here in Spanish Wells, part of it, but he was a great skateboarder, and so it was kind of a spoof on the fact that I had another passion besides tennis, and it was skateboarding. So if I was 18 now, or a youngster now, I might be a skateboarder.
What was your favorite part of filming that video?
Well, the fun part was to actually, I took a brick out of my trophy cabinet, which was from, they'd torn down the Plantation Club in Sea Pines. And so it was a brick from there, but I claimed it was a brick from a famous skateboarding area in New York City. The shot I liked the best is when he jumped the net.
Yes. Tell us about the Smith grind.
The Smith grind. Yeah, that's a famous move on a skateboard, and I can't even describe it. It's so complicated.
So complicated.
Yeah, it's a tough move.
Yeah, it is a tough move.
Yeah.
So, Stan Smith, do you have a favorite court of the ones you've played all over the world?
Well, I think the Wimbledon would be the favorite court. I mean, it's so special. It's grass. There's when I used to play, it was grass at the U.S. Open, at Wimbledon, and at the Australian Open. But now Wimbledon's the only grass court venue, and it's that center court particularly is very special.
I didn't know I could play tennis on grass, Stan Smith.
Well, it's unusual now. We used to have the Wimbledon, all the tournaments in the United States leading up to the U.S. Open were on grass, and then the U.S. Open was on grass. And so there's a lot of grass court play at the time.
Of course. Could you tell us about your sportsmanship?
Well, when I grew up, I had two older brothers, and they They kept me in line, punched me around a little bit. I had a lot of influences from my parents, from the folks in Pasadena that formed the foundation, the people in the Southern California Tennis Association, to to play hard, but to play fair, and to respect your opponent.
All right. So, Stan Smith, I don't like cheering. Do you find cheering crowds distracting? Mm-hmm.
Well, they can be if they're cheering against you, that's for sure. Playing Davis Cup is very special. You're playing outside the United States, representing the United States, and when you're playing in a pretty hostile territory, they're cheering against you all the time. But well, I'll tell you what happened one time in Spain. The guy had a mirror and reflected it in my eyes. Another time in Mexico, they were cheering very, very loudly for the other team, and occasionally get some boos or some catcalls from the fans.
I couldn't imagine that.
They threw when when the guy was reflecting the sun in my eyes, I said something to the umpire, and he didn't do anything. I said something to the neutral referee, he didn't do anything. So I hit a serve a little bit long towards the mirror, and I guess they threw about 2,000 cushions on the court. And so we had to wait for about a half an hour to clean the court off. It's great to have them cheering for you, and it helps you when you're down.
So, Stan Smith, what's your favorite thing to do on Hilton Head in the winter?
Well, I went on a bike trip about 3 years ago, and so my wife and I bought bikes, and so we do some biking here on Hilton Head.
What's your favorite bike path to ride?
Well, my favorite route is to go out of Spanish Wells, go up to the bridge, go across the bridge.
Talk Time
down to
with Reid Moriarty.
Go down 278 to Matthews Drive, go to Matthews Drive to Marshland Drive, and come down Marshland Drive back home.